Hello everyone, welcome to Ajiro Tech. Ajiro Tech. In this video, we're going to be looking at the Cambridge IGCSE Information and Communication Technology with the course code 0417. And we're looking at variant 13, paper 1 theory, October, November 2024, and which was the paper that was released few hours ago as of the time of this recording. Total duration of this paper is 1 hour 30 minutes. Okay, the instructions are very important, so please go to the instructions. They're very important. Total mark for this paper is 80 marks, right? 80 marks. And yes, I will be writing, explaining everything in between. This is one of the reasons that has made my paper want to be extremely unique from every other paper out there, and because I explain, I do all the things, and it's going to be so much fun. So are you ready? I know you're ready. So let me be a good student and let me begin by writing my candidate name. Okay, so yes, I'm doing that. Joe and D. Good. My center number is AN017. Candidate number is 2024. Okay, let's look at this. A computer uses both ROM and RAM. State the characteristics of a ROM. Now, this is something you see in chapter 1, types and component of computer systems. Okay, that's something you see there. Now let's take the characteristics of a ROM. It's important for us to know that when it comes to the ROM, it is the read-only memory. And because it's the read-only memory, what it does is it is non-volatile. And I use the word non-volatile because it simply means that it stores, right, data permanently. And you're wondering, data permanently, why? Okay. Now, the reason why that is the fact that the data that is stored, right, is permanent in nature because this is where the configuration data for the computer system is. So it is permanent. And that simply means that it cannot be altered and can only be read from. See that? So even if the power is turned off, right, the ROM chip is not lost. Okay, the ROM chip is what? Not lost. So what are the characteristics? So let's look at it together. So the first one is non-volatile memory. Stores data permanently. Let's look at others. For others, we see that data can only be read. Okay. How about the RAM, which is the random access memory? It simply means that the data are temporarily stored when running applications. These memories can be written to and read from. Okay. Because its content are lost when power to the computer is turned off. And this is why it is seen as a volatile or temporary memory. Okay, so for our notes, we'll see that data can be written to and read from. And it is what? A volatile memory. Okay, a volatile memory. For others, it stores data what? Temporary. Okay. State one use for each of the following storage devices and media. So we have ROM. Okay, so now this is a little bit of a twist. And I use the word twist because this is chapter one. This is chapter one. So let's look at the use. For the ROM, it contains what? Now, it contains what we call the BIOS, but it contains some coding known as the boot file. Please listen, the boot file. And this code will tell the browser what to do when it first starts up, right? And that's why we refer to it as a BIOS, as the BIOS, which is what? Basic input or output what? System. So we have what? The BIOS. Basic input or output system. So we have the BIOS here. The next one is it has what we call the startup instruction. Okay, so this is one mark. So I'll probably do others here. Startup instruction. Let's look at the RAM. For the RAM, it stores the data the computer is currently processing. Okay, so essentially, it is an internal chip where data is temporarily stored when running application. Okay, but this right here, okay, so let's, but this right here is chapter 3. Okay, so we need to know the difference. So not all of them, that's the reason why I didn't put any chapter here, if you notice, right? All this is put chapter 1. That's the reason why I had to split them, because when it comes to the Blu-ray, now we have optical storage devices and media. So for the optical storage devices and media, we have the compact discs, we have the DVD, and we have the Blu-ray. Okay, so when it comes to the Blu-ray, right, it is used for storing. Let me put this here. Right, it's used for storing high definition, high definition movies. So this is more or less like double of the DVD. Okay, we can also use this for others. We can also use this for data backup. Let's look at magnetic tape. This is also chapter 3. Let's look at that. So for the magnetic tape, they are used for storing backup data. Let's talk about for others. For others, for others, we have long term, storing long term archive. Okay, okay. Hopefully, we're good to go. Anything else for the Blu-ray that I want to talk about? Okay, so I've talked about for the Blu-ray, said storing high definition movies. It can also be used for data backup. Camcorders can also use it to store movies. So, um, the two have covered it. Question 2. A computer can use different generic files. So you see this in chapter 11. Chapter 11, file management. File management. So describe each of the following generic files. So let's look at it. So one of the generic files is the CSV. And the first thing we look at when we talk about CSV is, let's talk about the meaning. It's always important to talk about the meaning. So for CSV, it means comma separated values. Okay. Okay, so it takes data in the form of tables. Okay, which can be used in spreadsheet or database. So it saves it in what? A text format. So that simply means that it is a text file. And for others, I always like to use a different color. For others, it is delimited by commas. Okay. Then we have the generic compressed files. This is very important. Generic compressed files. So we have the RAR, and this simply means that this is the Russia archive. That's the first thing it means, the Russia archive. And they are used for data compression. So it is a container that holds almost any type, any file type in a compressed format. So it holds any file type in a compressed format. Okay. All right. TXT. So TXT here, we can see it as a plain text file. That's one. It contains an unformatted word and can be opened by any word processor. So those are keywords there. So contains not formatted text data for others. Can be opened, can be opened or used in any word processor. Okay, let's look at the B part. The file format txt, the RAR, CXV are examples of generic file formats. Yes, they are generic file formats, but it's important to know that TXT, RTF, and CSV are generic text file formats. So know the difference, right? And the RAR is a generic compressed file format. That's why they say they are generic file formats. Okay. State three other uses of generic file format. So it means that it, it, it means that you're stating virtually everything, right? Everything you can think of, literally. So what are we doing? What are we going for? So now do this. I'm going to give one. So I have PDF, and I'm going to count to like five, and then quickly type it in the comment section. Okay, so we have so five, four, three, two. Just type it in the comment section, right there. And if you're not subscribed to the YouTube channel, you want to subscribe, so subscribe. Okay, okay, which is it? So type the two for me, literally. Okay, okay, so we're stopping now. Okay, good. Okay, good. I'm going to mention all of them. Trust me. I'm going to mention all of them. So I have the GIF. I have MP3. Okay. So let's look at others. So others, I'm going to do this because I want to put them in a straight. Okay, I can just put them here. So we have LTF. We have JPG. We have PNG. We have MP4. We have CSS. We have HTML or HTML. We have, okay, apologies to this. We have zip. I think that covers everything here. Okay. Hope we're having a good time. Okay. Explain the need for generic file formats. What's the point? We've known all of them. So what's the need for the generic file format? And we can say that it allows users to save files so that they can be opened on any platform. The other one is the formatting of the file is not package specific. Therefore, formatting will not affect the file. This is why this is big mistake. Whenever IGCSE is giving you generic files, you do not save them in their generic file state. Rather, you save it in their appropriate software. For evidence document, I expect you to save it in a Word document, right? For spreadsheet, I expect you to save it as an Excel workbook. Okay. For your PowerPoint, I expect you to save it as a PowerPoint document. Okay, I think database is cut out because you have to import it as a table. Okay, so and all these papers in October, November is right here on the YouTube channel. So just go find it and learn, because I've talked about a lot of things there, and trust me, I'm going to wow you there as well. Okay, okay. So another one is, I'll probably put this as others. Okay, so using generic format allows file created on one type of computer to be read on another type of computer. Okay, I think we've talked on this. So this is also chapter 11, file management. In case you're wondering, where is this man getting all this from? Okay, so all this is also chapter 11. So okay, most people use portable solid state drive rather than portable hard disk drive. Compare SSD and HDD. Your answer should include both similarities and differences. So you see this in chapter 3, storage devices and media. Storage devices and media. Okay, so let's talk about similarities. Now, it's important for us to understand that both of them are very useful in backing up of our data. One of them is the magnetic device, falls on the magnetic device, and while the other one falls under the solid state. Okay, that means that one is affected by magnetic field, the other uses a flash memory, which is very important, mix of a flash memory. Okay, so it's important for you to differentiate, to know which is a pen drive and a flash drive, because a flash drive essentially is um, any device that uses solid state technology, literally. Okay, so let's do this. Similarities. Okay, so what are the similarities? What do you think are the similarities for both of them? What do they store? They store data, right? So we can see both of them both store data. What else? Okay. Both, because they're portable, both are what? Secondary. Storage. The primary are your RAM and ROM. Both stores files permanently. Both can be plugged into any computer system. Okay. So I've talked about four. Let's talk about the differences, shall we? Differences. So the differences is HDD uses magnetic technology. Okay. While SSD uses what? Solid state technology. HDD can be affected by strong magnetic field. Okay. While SSD are more robust, as no moving parts. Okay, so I've mentioned a whole lot, right? Okay, so think that's that. Question 4. A numbers of different communication devices can be connected to a network. So this is chapter 4. Explain how the following operates. So yep, that's chapter 4. So this is chapter 4. Networks and the effects of using them. So let's talk about a switch. So it's important for you to know that a switch, how many marks is this? 4 marks. Okay, that's good. Stores The MAC addresses. Okay, so I mean, it's correct. Um, um, I want to put my so it stores, yeah, stores the MAC address. Let's go with that. Stores the MAC address. We want to use intelligent version, but stores the MAC address, which is the media access control. The media access control. This is the MAC of all device on the network. You just want to be sure on the network. It's important to know that it connects devices together to form a LAN. Please write this in full. Local area network. It also reads to explain how the devices operate. So you connect device to form a LAN. It reads the recipient's MAC address. It sends data packet, which is sending data on the network to a specific device. Okay. It also receives signal from one device as well. Not just send, it also receives signals from one device. Okay, so um and it also contains MAC address of the sender and receiver. I think I can just put this down for others. Others contains, yeah, why it stores is all devices. Also important to, so I've talked about all devices on the network. So that's sender and receiver, but you can still split it. The MAC address of the sender and receiver. Okay. Router. Okay. So it routes data packets from one network to another. Route data packets from one network to another. The router splits the data into packets. Model broadband contains the MAC address and the IP address as well. So again, the router stores IP addresses in its routing table. The router reads the destination IP address. Okay, I think I can add one others. It can also check the IP address against its routing table. Okay. It's also important to know that if it cannot find the best route, it uses the default one. It can also direct, probably I will just use this here, can also direct incoming and outgoing. Internet traffic to the device. With the local IP address. A lot, and you're like, okay, do you have a private tuition? Don't you have? Do you have? And yes, Ajiro Tech do have a private tuition. So by my right, you can see that we have for the EdXL and Cambridge IGCSE, and yes, we do have for all subjects. Okay, all subjects. Okay, the popular ones that's always been in demand is mathematics, English language as a second language. Okay, we have physics, we have biology, we have chemistry, and we have um, the flagship, which is ICT, just here and there. We also have business studies. So if you're interested for a private tuition, I think all you have to do is send an email to the sales team at ajirotech@gmail.com, and they would reply to you, talk about your time zone, talk about, and the fee is really quite affordable. Really, it's really quite affordable. It's when you look at it across other tutoring service, I think this is the one that's quite affordable, and you get the very best of service. We also have for the E levels as well, um, and also for the edXL. So we have for the Cambridge E levels and edXL E levels. Okay, and we have also across the subject mathematics, which is usually the hot cake when it comes to E level mathematics and chemistry, and then biology. These are usually one of the ones we have in demand always, all the time, even physics, for E level. So all you have to do, if you're watching this right now and you are interested for a private tuition, then you can do yourself a solid, okay, and send an email to the sales team at agile@gmail.com, and they'll reply to you. And the good news about this is what I've discussed with the sales team is we've tried as much as possible to see how we can subsidize the amount according to countries, so it doesn't really look very, very heavy. Okay, so this is really important. Yes, we do charge in pounds, but again, we try to be as much as possible considerate to your countries, and we don't just skyrocket the price. No, because at the end of the day, we know how it feels, and we really want you to actually get the best of service, and again, be able to afford it from the comfort of your home. So again, Ajiro Tech private tuition is currently ongoing. You can enroll yourself for the IGCSE, and then for the E levels. Again, for the IGCSEs, these are the subjects, and for the E levels, these are also the subjects. So again, what are you waiting for? Just send an email to the sales team. If you're an IGCSE student preparing for IGCSE, if you're watching this in 2025, watching this in 2026, watching this in 2027, we're currently ongoing, and this is actually a good time for you to actually explore, and then get it tailored to your own needs. So trust me, you don't want to miss out. All these are chapter 4. Please take note. Bridges are communication devices. Explain what a bridge are used for. So essentially what a bridge does now in Japan, right, especially Osaka, right, you discover that they have a lot of bridge, and it's important to understand that uh, the bridge is to connect two places, right, is to connect two places together. Okay, I think there's also a bridge between Sweden and Denmark. Okay, okay, so all the Sweden and Denmark students, say hi on the comment section. Okay, right, so it's used to connect two places together. All right, so here we have it that, so literally it's still the same thing. So what a bridge does is to connect one land to another land. Okay, to connect one land, SPOTA, which is the local area network, to another LAN. Okay, for others, uses the same protocol or communication rule. All right, let's look at this. Ensuring the privacy and confidentiality of data becomes more important when using computer networks. Evaluate the different ways in which a user can ensure the privacy and confidentiality of data by using passwords. Okay, so we've touched on something today. So when we talk about passwords, you will see this in chapter 4. So I want to be specific. So I think this is C. Do we have D? Okay, so this is chapter 4. Networks and the effects of using them. And you will see this under networks and effects of using them. You look at it in, let me put it here, network issues and communication. Okay. And it's important because when we talk about evaluate, right, what we are simply saying for evaluate is that we have to judge or calculate the quality, importance, amount, or value of something. So we're talking about in different ways in which a user can ensure the privacy and confidentiality of data by using passwords. So let's start with something. So we can start with, this is a 6 marker. So we can start with the fact that we can, for added security, we can now use, because we're exploring different ways in which a user can ensure the privacy by using passwords. So we can, for added security, an OTP, which means one-time password, could be used. Okay, password should not be easy to crack. Passwords should not be easy to crack. You can change passwords on a regular basis. Okay, in case it has come into the possession of another user illegally or accidentally. ensure the password cannot be linked back to the user, as it makes it easier to guess. OTP, okay, requires extra hardware to be used. Evaluate the different ways in which a user can ensure privacy. Um, so we have one, two, three, we have five. Okay, let's see. Let's look at this. So you can bring in biometric passwords, right? You can bring it biometric. Very hard to forge. For others, biometric passwords can be affected by human changes. Okay, think of we've stretched this enough. All right. Repetitive strain injury and eye strain can be caused by using a computer. Taking breaks is one strategy for reducing these health issues. State two causes of repetitive strain injuries and give two other strategies for preventing it. So you have chapter 5, the effects of using IT. So let's take two other courses of using the RSI and give two other strategies for preventing it. So let's do that. And you will see this in the potential health problem related to the prolonged use of IT equipment. That's where you see the RSI. And if you wonder what RSI is, it simply means the damage to fingers, I think. Yes, by using computers, which is damage to fingers and risk caused by the continued use of typing and mouse, right? So, what are the causes? Let's look at it. So, excessive use of a mouse. That's cause one. So, when you're resting the risk or when you're typing on a computer keyboard for a long period of time. So let's look at the strategies here. For the first one, use an ergonomic mouse. Use an ergonomic keyboard. Okay. You can also use the reach risk for the course as strategy too. Okay. All right. So I'll probably just put this here as well for others. For others, you can use no. This is for okay. So for others, this rest. Okay. Let's look at the next one. State two causes of eye strain and give two other strategies to preventing it. So when we talk about eye strain, we're simply saying that when you're staring at a computer screen for a long period of time, it could be when you're having incorrect lighting. That can actually be a cause. Okay, that can actually be a cause. Okay, so let's look at this. So let's look at the cause one and then look at the cause two. So for eye strain, when you're staring at a computer screen for a long period of time. Okay, it could be when you're walking or having incorrect lighting in the room. Let's look at strategy one. When you when you can use an adjustable screen adjustable screen have your eyes tested. on a regular basis. Okay. Smartphones and desktop computers can be used to play video games. Discuss the advantage and disadvantage of using a smartphone rather than a desktop computer to play video games. So you see this in chapter 1, types and components of computer system. So we've talked about types of computers. So we have desktop, they have separate components such as your keyboard, your touchpad, um, or your mouse. Let's talk about the mouse, the keyboard, the monitor, the processor unit, all separated, right? All in a separate what unit. And now we are to discuss the advantage and disadvantage of using. Now the emphasis is on the smartphone, okay, which is a type of a mobile computer. Okay, so let's look at this. Let's start with the advantage. Advantages. So smartphones are more portable. Therefore, let's listen to the question. Therefore, can play the game in different places. More varieties of games as the smartphone. Is more likely to be used. Disadvantages. In terms of the smartphone and the desktop, smartphone has a smaller screen. Okay, so you have smaller screen. Disadvantage is on the smartphone, which makes it difficult to see the content of the game. It has smaller controls, which makes it more difficult to use. It drains. Okay, I think I'm not going to talk about battery because again, it's not a criteria to talk about both of them, right? One doesn't use it. It relies on power. Okay. So it takes up more of the processing power of a smartphone. So it simply means that hardware intensive games not used. This 6 marks, right? So I've talked about five. One more. Excessive use of the smartphone can lead to excessive use of the smartphone can lead to a more health issues. So please, you have to be careful. And this is one thing I want to talk about. Your smartphone can cause distractions, which could lead to injury. I know most of you are gamers, you love gaming, you love it a lot. I'm also a gamer, but you have to be careful not to be playing games while on the move because it can lead to a lot of injuries. And trust me, you don't want to have any form of physical injuries or any kind. So please be very careful. Okay. So it stopped recording, and that I needed to just talk about it. Okay. All right. The school can use school management system. Describe the input processes and output required by a school management system to show learners' performance. So I talked about the fact that this is from chapter 6 ICT applications, and under it is the school management systems, and um, it has different tasks in day-to-day running of the school, and it can be used for registration and attendance records of students. It can be used for student performances. It can be used for computer aided learning. Now, for registrations and attendance records, you could now use a corporate spreadsheet. You could use a magnetic stripe, even biometrics to register to take attendance. For student performance, you could use spreadsheet, computer aided learning, which is this simply means that they can be able to learn at their own pace. So let's look at the inputs. With all I've said, let's look at the inputs there, and this is what a sys marker. So let's look at this. So that simply means that for inputs, you can be able to students' personal details, marks and grades, inputs, attendance data. Okay, let's talk about processes. Class average are created. Um, Graphs are also created. Output Okay, so I'll probably have this as 1. So you have the termly report are printed, okay, and sent to parents. Okay, we can have progress against forecast grades as well. So computer aided learning can be part of a school management system. Explain what is meant by computer aided learning. So when we talk about the computer aided learning, it is um, the use of computer based system to assist in the academic teachings of students. So this is also chapter 6, still part of it, ICT application. So here you see that it's an application, a software used to assist in the academic teaching of students. Of students. It is also used to help students okay, I've talked about the same thing, it's repeated, same thing. um it's also a method of learning. So it's a method of learning. Okay, so we can add for others. For others, we have tailored to the individual student. Okay, a lot, and you're like, okay, do you have a private tuition? Don't you have? Do you have? And yes, Ajiro Tech do have a private tuition. So by my right, you can see that we have for the EdXL and Cambridge IGCSE, and yes, we do have for all subjects. Okay, all subjects. Okay, the popular ones that's always been in demand is mathematics, English language as a second language. Okay, we have physics, we have biology, we have chemistry, and we have um, you know the flagship, which is ICT, just here and there. We also have business studies. So if you're interested for a private tuition, um, I think all you have to do is send an email to the sales team at ajirotech@gmail.com, and they would reply to you, talk about your time zone, talk about, and the fee is really quite affordable. Really, it's really quite affordable. It's when you look at it across other tutoring service, I think this is the one that's quite affordable, and you get the very best of service. We also have for the E levels as well, um, and also for the EdXL. So we have for the Cambridge E levels and EdXL E levels. Okay, and we have also across the subject mathematics, which is usually the hot cake when it comes to E level, mathematics and chemistry, and then biology. These are usually one of the ones we have in demand always, all the time. Even physics, for E level. So all you have to do, if you're watching this right now and you are interested for a private tuition, then you can do yourself a solid, okay, and send an email to the sales team at ajiro@gmail.com, and they'll reply to you. And the good news about this is what I've discussed with the sales team is we've tried as much as possible to see how we can subsidize the amount according to countries, so it doesn't really look very, very heavy. Okay, so this is really important. Yes, we do charge in pounds, but again, we try to be as much as possible considerate to your countries, and we don't just skyrocket the price. No, because at the end of the day, we know how it feels, and we really want you to actually get the best of service, and again, be able to afford it from the comfort of your home. So again, Ajiro Tech private tuition is currently ongoing. You can enroll yourself for the IGCSE and then for the E levels. Again, for the IGCSEs, these are the subjects, and for the E levels, these are also the subjects. So again, what are you waiting for? Just send an email to the sales team. If you're an IGCSE student preparing for IGCSE, if you're watching this in 2025, watching this in 2026, watching this in 2027, we're currently ongoing, and this is actually a good time for you to actually explore and then get it tailored to your own needs. So trust me, you don't want to miss out. The manager of a plant nursery has asked a system analyst to create a new database to store information about his plants. The new database needs to store the following data. So we have the unique reference number for each plant. We have the common name, okay, for each plant. If the plant is scented or not scented, okay. The price of each plant on a range from $10 to $100. The maximum height of the plant. Part of the database is shown. For each of the fields shown, state and describe the most validation check that could be used on the data. Now we'll talk about validation. There are two ways, two chapters you see. Chapter 7 and chapter 15, proofing. Okay, two chapters that you can actually see validation. But I'm just going to pick one because they're both literally the same thing. Literally just copy and paste in both of the chapters. But I'm not saying anything. So I'm not saying anything. Don't pick my words. Okay. All right. So let's talk about what a validation is. Let's talk about what a validation is. Permit me to write this here. Okay. So when we talk about validation, okay, is the process where data entered into a computer is checked to see if it satisfies certain criteria. Okay, so verification is the process of ensuring what is being transferred is correct. Okay, but this is the process where data entered into a computer is checked to see if it satisfied what certain what criteria. So let's look at this. For each of the fields should state and describe the most appropriate validation. So we have a lot of validation check, range check, type check. For the range check, it checks to see if data input lies between an acceptable upper bound and lower bound. For the type check, it checks to see if the data entered is of the correct type. For the length check, it checks to see if the data imputed contains only the required number of characters. For the format check, it checks that the data has been entered is of the correct format. Present check, it checks to ensure that data has been entered into the field and is not left empty. Check digits is an extra digit added to the number, which can be calculated from every other digit. So let's do this. So I have ref number. So what's the validation check here, right? So looking at this reference number, what do you think is the validation check? So this has what we call, it could be a length check because they put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it could be a length check, and reference number is your primary key, so we can see it's a present check because again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So they're all 5. 1, 2, 3. So they're all 5. So it's a length check, right? And we could say that is a format check because it can be in the format of the it could be in a certain format. Okay, it could be in a certain format. Okay, so let me go with length check. They say what? Your answer will be different in each case. So I'll go with present check then. I'll go with present check. No, I'll go with length check. Let me go with length check. I'll go with length check. Length check. Description is the data must contain five characters. For price can be of for price it can be of a range. Look at it. They said the price of each plant on a range from this is the range. So this is an indication that this is going to be a range check, right? And it could also be of type. Why? Because it contains only number, literally. So what are we going with? So I'll just go with range check. Range check. Okay, so the price must be in the range of $10 to $100. Let me put dollars there. Okay. Okay. In the table, state the most appropriate data type to create the database using the information given. Let's not forget I said this is chapter 7. The systems life cycle. So when we talk about data types, this refers to the type of data that should go into a field. So using the information given before, okay, for any numeric field, specify the type of number. Look at this. For any numeric field, specify the type of number. So what are the data types we have? So please pay attention to this. So we have the following types of data types. So we have the alphanumeric, which stores alpha characters, which is letter or text, and then numeric data, which is numbers. We have character, which is just a single letter. We have text, which is a string of characters or any or other symbols. We have boolean, which stores data in yes or no or true or false logical format. For numeric, they are used to store numeric data, which is used to perform calculation. But this does not include telephone numbers. And we have the following type of numeric. We have numeric integers, which is your whole number. We have numeric decimal or real, which is your non-integer values. We have currency, which is allows inclusion of currency symbol. We have date or time, which allows date and time to be stored. So let's look at it. Name of plant. Let's go back. Name of plant. Okay, so this is definitely going to be alphanumeric. Name of plant, alphanumeric. So this can be alphanumeric or this can be text, right? So this can be alphanumeric. This can be text. Centered. Okay, so this is S or non S. So that is Boolean. Price. Okay, so price is numeric. What kind of numeric? Currency. Hope you understand this because of the inclusion of the currency symbol. Height. Let's look at height quickly. For height, is in meters. So we have this 1 point. Now the difference between this has no inclusion of currency. This has an inclusion of currency. So this now becomes numeric, decimal, or real. Okay, so numeric, decimal. Okay. Circle 2 web development layer. So we have this as chapter 21. Website authoring. Okay, so we have three: content, presentation, behavior. So which one is it? So I have presentation, I have behavior. So okay, explain why tables are used to structure element within a web page. This is very important. First thing I can think of is organizes the data on the web page, and this falls in your content layer. And essentially, when we talk about the content layer, what we are simply saying is that this is where the content of the web page, which falls in the body section. Okay, um, content of your web page, like your text, your images, your page structures, which are your frames, tables, are hyperlinks. So it organizes the data on the web page. The tables are independent of the screen resolution. Okay. All right. Others can see it that it restricts the output so that The display remains constant. A gesture-based user interface can be used in gaming devices to play games. Describe the benefit and drawbacks of using gesture-based interface in this scenario. Okay, so this is chapter 1, which is types and components of computer systems. So let's look at it. So the whole idea of the gesture base is that it uses physical part of the body, right, as interaction. Okay, so it doesn't rely on any form of mechanical device. So it relies on human interaction by the moving of hands or head or even feet, right, to interact with the system. So let's look at it. Let's look at the benefits. The screen lasts longer, as no physical contact with the user. Is a fast form of data entry. Does not require additional devices. And it is a natural form of communication which makes it, or makes the game, you have to relate it to the question, makes the game more realistic. Because you're using gesture based to in gaming device to play games. Drawbacks. Commands have to be learned correctly. You have to know how to move your hands correctly, how to move your head correctly. So commands have to be learned. Have to be learned correctly. Possible for unintentional movements to be picked up. Okay, I think we've talked about 6. Let's talk about others. So others uses more processing power. It causes fatigue. And if the system is too complex, more gesture have to be learned. Okay, so this brings us to the end of it. So it's been a good one, from chapter 1 under the user interface. And it's important for you to understand the user interface because we talk about operating system, which allows communication between user and computer system. That's what user interface is, literally. So it allows the communication between the user, and the computer system. So questions came from chapter 1. We saw this is also chapter 21. Okay. This is also chapter 7. This is also chapter 7. Okay, so let's do that. Chapter 7. The system life cycle. Um, Chapter 6, the school management system. We saw chapter 1, chapter 5, mm, chapter 4, chapter 4 again, chapter 3, chapter 11, chapter 11. Um, Chapter 3 came out. Okay, chapter 3 is storage devices, if you're wondering, and media. Okay, so I think what I didn't see chapter 8 here. I didn't see chapter 9 here. I didn't see chapter 9 here. Chapter 2 was not present as well. Okay, but I think fairly everything came out. So this brings us to the end of this video. Please do well to, I think I've answered everything. I just want to be sure. Yes, I've done. Please do well to share this video with your friends, so they can learn, right? And learn rightly, right? There are other videos out there, but Ajiro Tech is just exceptional because we don't just solve a past paper, we teach you. And I would see you in the next one. Bye for now.